You made me breakfast in bed.
This part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
From toddlers to teens, high chairs to high school, they're our future, they're our children. Hi, I'm Molly Cooney.
And I'm Kevin Cooney. TV8 and Norwest Bank are proud to announce a new and exciting commitment to our children.
It's called Making the Grade, a year-round effort putting the spotlight on today's educators, teachers, students, and parents, plus programs that are making good things happen in education.
Watch for our Making the Grade reports only on TV8 News. Making the Grade, making a difference for you and your children.
Molly Cooney on TV8, Iowa's news leader.
Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, September 10th. I'm Paula Zahn.
And I'm Harry Smith. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to CBS This Morning.
Making headlines this morning, President Bush unveils new details of his economic plan today and promises never to raise taxes again.
Plus, Robert Krulwich explains why the world's richest woman may actually want to pay taxes.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger has a message for kids. Pump it up or I'll be back. He's with us here in the studio to humiliate us and tell us that we probably need to be working out more
You think
ourselves.
he's going to want to sort of lead us through some exercises?
Yeah, he's probably
or
going to make
something
us try to do 10 push-ups. Boy push-ups this morning.
That'd be tough.
With the president, with the president already threatening a veto, there is a big showdown brewing today on Capitol Hill when the House votes on the family leave bill. Just ahead, we're going to talk with Democratic Congresswoman Pat Schroeder and Labor Secretary Lynn Martin about that very subject.
And later on this morning, the Slob sisters, they'll be back to help us de-junk our house this morning.
You weren't referring to Pat
The
Schroeder
other
and-
sisters, no.
Oh, okay, all
like
right.
No relationship.
Okay, I just
between
want to
them.
get that straight.
No, the Slob sisters are two completely different people who are going to teach us how to clean up drawers in our house. Do you do that in your, can you throw anything away? I have like 3 weeks worth of newspapers I can't throw away. They're going to
Don't
help us.
open any of the drawers. It's very dangerous.
Prioritizing and de-junking this morning. Mark McEwen has this week off Storm Field of WCBS TV here in New York. Has our first look at the weather this morning. Good
Well,
morning.
I'll tell you, people out west are just having a glorious week. Lots of sunshine. Take a look at the map. You'll see that it's just beautiful out there. Plenty of sun over much of the west, a little bit of colder air and strong winds into the midsection of the country, and a very serious cold front moving in towards the east is going to be spreading some very nasty weather there. We'll be talking about that as we go through the next half hour.
All right, thanks, Storm. See you a little bit later on this morning. Time to get caught up in the news this morning. President Bush admits the economy is sick and has repeated his promise that a tax hike will not be part of the remedy. In Detroit today, the president will deliver a speech on his plan to nurse the economy back to health. Randall Pinkston has more from the White House right now. Good morning, Randall.
Good morning, Paula. One senior campaign official describes that speech as an effort by Mr. Bush to go beyond saying he has a domestic policy to actually showing he has the programs to back it up. As he continues to paint Bill Clinton as a tax and spend Democrat, Mr. Bush on the campaign trail yesterday came really close to repeating his 1988 read my lips, no new taxes pledge.
I've already vetoed one Democratic tax increase, and I'll veto another if I have to. I've got a pen right here in my coat to do just that. No more tax increases.
But the question for skeptics is how Mr. Bush will pay for the tax cuts he proposed in his acceptance speech last month. On the campaign trail in New Jersey, he dropped a clue about his plan, vowing to cap the growth of spending.
And that cap would save almost $300 billion over 5 years. $300 billion. I need your help for that program. That's what we need. And we can take those savings and cut taxes across the board.
The goal of today's speech, according to White House officials, is to convince voters that if re-elected, President Bush will give his domestic agenda the kind of attention he gave foreign affairs in his first term.
People still have two filter questions about George Bush before they'll vote for him. One, what's he going to do to fix the economy? And two, is he going to devote the time and talent that he's shown around the world to this country's problems?
Hasn't hit. I mean,
President's speech today is sure to come in for a lot of criticism from his political opponents, especially the idea about paying for an across-the-board tax cut with a cap on mandatory spending programs. Mr. Bush has been floating that idea for a few years now, and Congress has opposed it. Paula?
Thank you, Randall. Randall Pinkston reporting from outside the White House this morning. Bill Clinton says he wants an end to welfare as we know it. In Georgia yesterday, Clinton proposed a $6 billion welfare reform program. Under the plan, recipients would have to work after completing job training.
First, people who can work ought to go to work, and no one should be able to stay on welfare forever. And second, no one who does work and who has children in the home should live in poverty. as too many are today.
The reform proposals are seen as an effort by Clinton to address middle-class concerns that the welfare system breeds dependency among the poor. The Senate today begins work on an aid package for victims of Hurricane Andrew and Typhoon Omar. The House is considering an $8.8 billion plan. Most of that aid is not controversial, but as Doug Tennell reports, the reconstruction of Florida's Homestead Air Base just may be.
One look at Homestead Air Force Base more than 2 weeks after Hurricane Andrew reveals the enormity of the task ahead if President Bush's promise to rebuild here is to be fulfilled. It looks like a war zone, but there were no casualties here. The only losses, bricks and mortar and a handful of planes that couldn't fly away to safety. The pledge to rebuild was renewed by Colin Powell, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as he visited the troops directing the recovery effort in the nearby town of Homestead. Experts from the Army Corps of Engineers are poring over the rubble at the air base, trying to see if anything can be salvaged. What used to be base housing is now a virtual ghost town. The nearly 4,000 men and women who lived here were evacuated before the storm hit. Most now have new Air Force assignments. For some, it was a second disaster. They had only recently arrived at Homestead after fleeing the Pinatubo volcano in the Philippines. There are new residents, though, in prefab air-conditioned tent cities, put up to house the air controllers and other support personnel who rushed here from other bases to coordinate the recovery airlift.
We've been deployed here to help Homestead get back on its feet. Right now, the mission is to clean up, assess, and from there we'll get instructions from our higher headquarters on the fate of Homestead Air Force Base.
Not everyone who has set up housekeeping here is from the Air Force. The Army has arrived in force. The conditions, no running water, only the scattered electric power supplied by generators, bring back memories.
Same as Saudi and Iraq, do the best we can.
So how does it compare to Desert Storm? How does it compare to being in Iraq?
There's really no comparison because that was a combat zone. It may look like a combat zone, but it's not, you know.
The next most important combat for this base will take place in Congress, where the president's pledge to rebuild will likely face opposition from some lawmakers who would rather spend the money to save military facilities in their own home districts. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Homestead Air Force Base.
A study done for a congressional committee estimates that hunger in the U.S. is up by 50% since the mid-1980s. It found that 30 million Americans are undernourished. However, a conservative think tank says the numbers are not worth the paper they are printed on. The Heritage Foundation claims the biggest nutritional problem for poor people is obesity. Time to take a look at the financial markets this morning. The dollar is higher. In Tokyo, the Nikkei index gained a small fraction of 1%. Wall Street starts the day with the Dow Jones Industrial Average at 3271 after a gain yesterday of almost 11 points. Sports news this morning in baseball, a milestone for Robin Yount of the Milwaukee Brewers. In his fourth at-bat versus Cleveland, Yount singled to right center field for his 3,000th hit. Yount is the 17th major leaguer to reach that level. He also picked up hit numbers 1,000 and 2,000 against Cleveland, but the Indians were 5-4 winners last night. Finally, it was MTV Music Awards night in Los Angeles. Dana Carvey of Saturday Night Live was the host and very presidential celebrity watcher.
I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak at the MTV Video Music Awards. A lot of activity backstage. Saw Mick Jagger, big head, little body, scary.
The big winners were the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Van Halen with 3 awards each. The Chili Peppers received the Breakthrough Video Award and also provided much of the action.
Give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
All 3 of Van Halen's awards were for the video right now. 8 minutes after the hour, Storm Field of WCBS TV in New York, sitting in for Mark McEwen all week long. How you doing this morning?
Doing great, Paula. To everybody, good morning. How are you doing? Satellite picture for us this morning showing a good bit of clearing skies out in the west. Lovely weather out in here. Temperatures rather chilly this morning from Montana, northern plains, moving into the northern Great Lakes. Very windy here also, but at least you've got lots of sunshine and a little bit of warming trend coming your way. The big news in the weather story is right in here. A very strong cold front now has pushed through the midsection of the country, leaving behind anywhere from 3 to as much as 6 inches in southeastern Iowa into Illinois. This front is now pushing forward towards the east, and there'll be quite a lot of heavy action associated with that today. As a matter of fact, as we show you our storm watch for the region, from the east coast moving right on back down towards Texas and Oklahoma, we're looking for strong thunder showers to occur with the movement of that front today. Some very strong damaging winds, maybe 1 to as much as 3 inches of rain throughout much of the area, and some large hail in evidence. That's the national forecast. Now here's a look at your weather.
A chance to dry out today after about 3/4 of an inch of rain in central Iowa yesterday. Plenty of sunshine, northwesterly winds today at around 10 to 20, highs ranging from the mid-60s in the north and east to around 70 to 72 for much of southern Iowa.
In the next half hour, we're going to be taking a look at what we can be expecting from that large storm system. Harry, Paula?
Thank you, Storm. Later today, the House of Representatives is going to vote on what's officially called the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1991. It would require businesses with 50 or more employees to give workers up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave for family and medical reasons. Family leave would be available when a child is born or adopted or when a close family member is sick. The issue is being debated along fairly sharp political lines, with most Democrats in favor and the Bush administration opposed. And joining us from Washington, our Democratic Congresswoman Pat Schroeder of Colorado, a sponsor of the bill, and Labor Secretary Lynn Martin. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
I want to start with Secretary Martin. Didn't you vote for this 2 years ago?
You bet.
You did.
You bet. And it was a tough call even then, but not for any of the reasons people give today.
Well, why are you against it? Why is George Bush against it now?
I'll tell you. One of the reasons then was, and I still worry about that it would still act as a further discrimination against young women to be hired. You'd never see it on paper, but that's why a young man would be hired. But now what we're looking at, and the administration has had this position, not opposed to family leave, but opposed to a new mandate. Today's headlines again indicate the difficulty we have, all of us as a country, with job creation. You can't talk about creating jobs in small and medium businesses, and that's businesses of 75, 100, 200, and put one more mandate. It'd be my choice perhaps as a mandate. Somebody else might pick enforced pension policy. Somebody else, we don't even have maternity leave.
So I'm curious, so you say you like the idea, you just don't like the regulation?
I don't like an enforced mandate from the federal level, and I think, and this is not true, by the way, for Congresswoman Schroeder, who's been a supporter of this, but this has been now sitting around for 1 year in the House and Senate. The Democrats could have brought it up any time. You'll forgive me if there's a bit of suspicion that they're not really thinking about families or parents, but an election when it comes up at this particular time. There was a conference committee that's last November, last December. This could have been done, taken care of, and in fact, maybe we could have work toward a compromise. Instead, regrettably, I guess it is a political year. It's going to be pure politics, and that doesn't help families, and it doesn't help leave.
Secretary Martin, though, can you have it both ways? Can you be for family values and be against this bill simply because you say that the benefits are mandated?
Well, certainly you can. I mean, that's Paula, for a moment. First of all, a lot of people in America, not just Republicans, I would argue, are indeed for family values. But talking about one of the things many women need now are jobs. And to talk about something that might cause them not to have a job, a lot of people can't afford unpaid family leave. They're working because they need the money. They might say, for a minute, ignore family leave and look at maternity benefits. I was a member of the House with Congresswoman Schroeder, and you know, the House of Representatives didn't even have a regulated a family leave or maternity policy. So there's a long way to go out there, but please do not ever argue that you can't care about the family and having women with a choice or a need for careers and a mandated new benefit that may not work. Europe has it, and I sure don't see a lot of women rising to the top in European business. I think we have to look at a lot of other questions in addition to family leave.
Congresswoman Schroeder, any of these arguments wash?
Absolutely not. First of all, my good friend wouldn't even have a job if there weren't mandates. And let's talk about all the other things the president's been willing to mandate this time. I mean, that's what the Labor Secretary does, is enforce those mandates. But number one, we've taken on all sorts of things this time. The Americans with Disabilities Act, which I support, and that's very important. The Civil Rights Bill, and so forth.
But those are civil rights,
but let me also,
not mandated benefits. Very different.
No. They're mandated that they have to comply with them. And what you're saying is here, we'll say it's a good idea, but we won't enforce anyone to comply. And I think it's very important that people have this right. Let's go through this one thing at a time. How can you passively be for families and not give people this right? It doesn't discriminate against women. Every Western industrialized country has this policy except the United States. And they've not found discrimination against women.
Women don't do that well in those countries, particularly, so it doesn't work.
With men. I mean, men are also covered under this, and it not only goes to babies, it goes to elderly parents. I'm now of the age where 2 days ago, my mother broke her ribs. Many of us are in that transition position, and both men and women are in there. So if you can't hire men and you can't hire women, I don't know who you'd hire. But bottom line is, this has been programmed to show that at most it would cost 97 cents a week for a leave employee taking this. And I think it's time, after 1 month of just being inundated with all the family values stuff, here's the first piece of legislation that really values families. And it's time to say who's for families and who's just faking.
And
Congresswoman Schroeder,
wait, I think.
I have a question. Before you go any further, I have a question for you about the timing of this. A lot of critics say we're in a recession, this is a very bad time. You talked about the 97 cents a week it would cost employers, but ultimately it may result in layoffs. What is the cost of business?
Well, let me tell you about the timing of this. Number one, the reason we waited till now is we hoped that the president would talk to us. It came out of conference, and for 1 year, the Congressional Caucus on Women's Issues has sent letter after letter saying, please talk with us. Practically all the congresswomen agree on this. And Lynn did when she was there.
Listen, wait, I do know something about this and some of the discussions with Congress.
And the Catholic conferences tried to get in.
You just can't say things like that, Pat. Just writing letters isn't enough. There have been a lot of serious discussions.
We know how to dial a phone. We've done all of those things, Lynn. And the real issue is the president was willing to meet on civil rights, on Americans with disabilities, and negotiate, but absolutely no one would come negotiate on this.
And I think it is time that the other side gets to say
10 seconds.
Oh, Patricia, just a moment.
10 seconds left.
Let me just say how important this is during the recession, because during the recession, people are terrified to take any time off if their employer says they can't have it.
In that 10 seconds, Pat.
They would then.
I have a problem. I'm polite and don't interrupt. But for
Secretary Martin, you get your 10 seconds now. Go ahead.
For a moment. In an economic slowdown, you don't put on something else that will cost the very people who need jobs, who couldn't afford family leave unpaid anyway, to take away their jobs. And there was time to work together. There still could be time to work together if it weren't trying to be a political issue. Let's all of us really talk about families and the issues that matter.
We even offered to go to a foreign capital if you'd meet with us there. But
very funny anyway. It's a great one-liner, but it doesn't help the person who truly needs both a job and the women and men who need help working with the family.
Help them either, Lynn.
Secretary Martin, Congresswoman Schroeder, thank you both for joining us this morning as the debate rolls on. 17 minutes after the hour, coming up next, while everybody's trying to get in on the Credit Card Act. We'll tell you all about it.
Shop the competition for Lazy Boy sofas. Then shop Homemakers West. This sofa from Lazy Boy, just $3.99. Imagine $3.99 for a Lazy Boy sofa, a pretty cotton print, and of course Homemakers lifetime warranty on the frame. No coupons, no gimmicks, just low, low prices. Homemakers displays more Lazy Boy products than anyone in Iowa, and nobody beats our prices. Why pay more? Homemakers West, 104th and Douglas, Iowa's largest Lazy Boy dealer.
Every morning, everywhere, when the sun wakes up the sky, let Folgers be there to open up your eyes. Nothing that aroma can do, waking you and me, waking everyone in harmony. Best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Even if you're Rookie of the Year one year and make the All-Star team the next, you still don't ignore advice from experienced veterans. And that's why when I do change from my uniform to a suit or sport coat, I go to Foreman & Clark. Foreman & Clark has been making and selling direct-to-you quality men's clothing for almost a century. You'll be amazed at their huge selection and low prices. A suit can be yours for less than $200, and the blazer I like is under $100. Take some advice from a current all-star. Let F&C keep you from making an error on your next suit or coat.
They murdered hundreds of people, and even mafia chiefs feared them.
The most heinous murder crew in American history.
And now a current affair reveals how the FBI stopped a reign of slaughter by the murder machine. Plus, check out the glamour and excitement of the MTV Music Awards when we go backstage with rock royalty.
Current Affair, tonight at 6:30 on TV 8.
In America's love affair with credit cards, there's a new suitor trying to win a place in your wallet. Our money editor, John Stair. Oh, you're not the guy trying to get their money. How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you. Good morning, Paula. The entry seems to come from deep left field. This is it. General Motors is offering a new credit card, hoping that its new plastic will help put more of its rubber on the road.
And with no further ado, I'm going to step over and unveil the product.
With the swipe of a curtain, General Motors started traveling down a new road by offering a GM MasterCard. The card features a 16.4% interest rate, that's lower than average, and no annual fee. But the company's real motivation is this.
GM is in the credit card business to sell more cars and trucks.
Depending on how much cardholders spend, they get rebates when they buy a new GM car. The automaker is just the latest non-banking company to issue credit cards, following giants like AT&T, Ford, and General Electric. The number of cards grows, even while consumer debt has been shrinking for the last 6 months. So new issuers offer tempting incentives to win you over. But beware.
In some cases, consumers can benefit from the perks on credit cards, but in most cases, they're just gimmicks, and they won't save you a lot of money.
Now, to prove that point, let's compare the new GM MasterCard with a MasterCard issued by USAA Federal Savings Bank in Tulsa. If you carry a $1,000 balance for 1 year and pay only the minimum payment each month, the GM card will charge you $150 in interest. Now compare that to what you would pay on the USAA card, which carries an interest rate of 12.5%. You would be charged $112. Now, sure, you would get a $50 rebate if you buy a GM car over the course of the year, but if you don't, you're just out $38.
So let's talk about that interest rate of 12.5% that the bank is offering. Is that realistic?
Very realistic. In fact, you can do as well as 8.9% if you have a good credit rating.
8.9%?
Banks have been lowering their interest rates. And in fact, the Bank Card Holders of America, a consumer advocacy group, has just put together a new list. They call it their Fair Deal List, which lists the lowest interest rates in the country on credit cards. And you can get a copy of that by calling toll-free 1-800-327-7300. That number, once again, is 800-327-7300. Now, there is a $4 charge for the list, so I would suggest that you not order it unless you really plan to use it.
But you can save a lot of money if you check out the right bank.
That's right.
John, thanks. Harry?
22 past the hour, still to come on CBS This Morning. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Peter Riegert from Middle Ages.
It. The sale you've been waiting for is at the Leather Shoe. For a limited time, thousands of pairs of clearance shoes are half price. That's right, save like never before on men's and women's shoes in all your favorite brand names. Now at half price. Now is the time to buy. Remember, the Leather Shoe is the size specialist. No other store in Des Moines offers you more sizes, service, and selection. Don't wait. Hurry in for tremendous savings while they last at the Leather Shoe in Merle Hay Mall.
Attention mattress shoppers, there's a tremendous mattress sale now in progress at Don's Wholesale Furniture. Don has all the best therapeutic mattress sets on sale. The Medicoil Pillow Top, the Cairo models, and the Hotel Motel quality sets. You can purchase by the set or by the piece during this sale. Twin, full, queen, and king sizes are available. Don has queen size mattresses starting at only $49 and full size mattresses starting at only $59. Come in today and receive a free bed frame with all sets purchased. Easy finance terms and same-day delivery service are available. Don's Wholesale Furniture, located at 4401 Northeast 14th Street in Des Moines.
Now on videocassette.
This is Fern Gully.
Don't you wish all your friends from Fern Gully
I'm Krista.
could come out and play?
We could fix that for you.
Well, now they can.
Wow.
There's Krista.
Are you really a human? Whoa. Wow.
Batty Coda. And Zach. For a limited time, your Forest Adventure set is free with purchase of the hit movie Fern Gully, rated G.
Isn't this great? Look for your free adventure set when you buy Fern Gully at 5 Star Video.
I bought Grand Am.
We bought Grand Am. Grand Am's #1.
Pontiac Grand Am continues to be the #1 selling car for General Motors, and for very good reasons.
It's exciting.
It's priced right. It's less than Honda and Toyota.
Pontiac Grand Am offers exciting Pontiac features and low 3.9 financing.
I love it. We love it.
America loves Grand Am. That's why it's #1.
See your Golden Circle Pontiac dealer.
This TV8 News Break is brought to you by University Bookstore.
And good morning, I'm Liz Meridian with this live news break. This week is winding down with a great forecast. Sunny skies today and Friday with highs in the 70s. Right now it's 48 degrees though in Des Moines. I'll have the complete forecast in just a moment. Police in Illinois and Missouri are looking into some interesting parallels between a Missouri murder and Tammy Zawicki's death. This man is Paul Kreutzer, and he's accused in the rape and murder of a rural Missouri housewife 1 week ago. There are some aspects in that case that detectives in Illinois are interested in. When Kreutzer was arrested in Missouri, police found Illinois newspaper clippings about Tammy Zawicki's murder in his car. Also, duct tape was used in the Missouri homicide as it was in Zawicki's murder. The murder in eastern Missouri happened at this farmhouse in a town called Louisiana. The victim was 36-year-old Louise Hemphill. She was tied up with duct tape, then raped and murdered. And now authorities are checking out the timing and location of the Missouri murder to see if he could be connected with Zawicki's death. On August 23rd in north central Illinois, Zawicki disappeared. 4 days later, Kreutzer allegedly tried to accost a woman along Interstate 70 near Columbia, Missouri. And then 1 week ago, on September 2nd, Kreutzer allegedly murdered the housewife in eastern Missouri. Authorities are not calling Kreutzer a suspect in Tammy's death, but they are investigating any possible connections. The trial of the man accused of beating Jonathan Waller resumes this morning in Davenport. Letters released at the trial yesterday reveal that Dario Rezga wrote to Jonathan's mother and said he never meant to hurt him. Rezga wrote the letters after being jailed on suspicion of beating the boy. The former director of Living History Farms has pleaded guilty to 1 count of lustful acts with a child. Oliver Gillespie made his plea yesterday in Scott County Court. He was director of Living History Farms from 1974 to 1980. Gillespie will be sentenced later this month, and he faces up to 5 years in prison. The Justice Department has sent letters to Iowa Congressmen Neil Smith and Dave Nagel saying they will not be investigated for criminal wrongdoing in the House bank scandal. Smith bounced 2 checks, Nagel had 4, but about 70 lawmakers got the letters yesterday. Now, Iowa Congressman Jim Ross Lightfoot says he was not among the lawmakers exonerated by the Justice Department. Lightfoot bounced 105 checks, but says he did nothing wrong. Lightfoot says he's upset with the Justice Department for the way it's handling that investigation. Iowa students are ranked among the top in the nation when it comes to ACT college entrance scores. Iowa students' average score in the past year was 21.6, and that's 1 full point above the national average. Iowa tied with Wisconsin for the top ACT scores, and Minnesota ranked 3rd. Finally, nobody won either the Lotto jackpots last night. Iowa Lotto rises to an estimated $600,000 for Saturday's drawing. Powerball will climb to about $5 million. I'll have the forecast right after this.
When it comes to selection, the University Bookstore's large inventory answers your needs with the latest novels, computer aftermarket supplementals, reference, the newest books on business, and even calculators. Our professional staff will trace special titles, accept call-in orders, and mail out at your convenience. More than a college bookstore, we're your ultimate reading source. The University Bookstore, 30th and Forest, across from Drake.
Well, the sun is shining, and it's shaping up to be a really beautiful day. Mostly sunny skies with a high of only 70 degrees. Tonight, fair and cool with a low of 45. And for tomorrow, sunny and mild, a bit warmer with a high of 76. There is a chance for rain creeping back into the weekend. Right now, clear skies, temperature 48 degrees in Des Moines, winds out of the west today. That's my report for this morning. I'm Liz Meridian. Have a good Thursday.
For up-to-the-minute weather information, day or night, call the TV8 Weather Beacon Forecast at 262-7173. Brought to you by First Star Banks, where the people are Main Street friendly and the advice is Wall Street smart.
My nose hurts so bad. Like burning lava. Oh. It hurts, it gets really raw.
These noses need Puffs tissues. Puffs are softer than the other leading brand, so they're like first aid for your sore nose.
Ooh. This one is softer to me.
Ah.
Feels like satin.
Puffs are puffed for extra softness. See how they stack up against unpuffed tissues.
From now on, I'm using Puffs. I'm so relieved.
We have a winner here, folks. Puffs, first aid for your sore nose.
Now that I found Puffs, I'm never going back. Ever.
More paste, thick, and chunky salsa. Here. This ain't paste, thick, and chunky salsa. Well, woo, doggies.
Paste is made with big chunks of tomatoes, onions, and peppers.
Perfect for dipping.
By folks in San Antonio.
Who know what salsa should taste like. Well, this stuff's made in New York City.
New York City.
Jake, it's time you switch brands.
Pick up a thick and chunky one. Pick up the pace. In Ottumwa, tune to Channel 23 for better reception of TV8.
Good job. 5th and 6th graders from Claymont Elementary School in Baldwin, Missouri, playing our theme under the direction of Rachel Haspy.
I don't know whether you noticed it, but their mascot in the back, Maxwell, the cow, did you notice him? He's about 6 rows back. Good morning, Maxwell.
Welcome back to CBS This Morning. I'm Harry Smith.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Paula Zahn.
Middle East peace talks appear to be making some progress. There are new overtures to Syria in a couple of minutes. We're going to talk with a man who could soon head the opposition in Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Then, want another reason to stop smoking? Dr. Bob Arnott has the latest medical news on how mothers who smoke harm their children.
And the big guy, the Terminator, will be joining us a little bit later on this morning. Arnold Schwarzenegger is on a crusade to shape up America's school kids, and he won't let them go back to school without hearing what he has to say. It's going to be convincing, I assure you. Arnold will be dropping by coming up in this half hour.
All righty, time now for this morning's news. Here are this morning's top stories. Bill Clinton proposes major welfare reform. The $6 billion plan stresses job training and education. And President Bush offers his cure for the ailing economy in 2 high-profile speeches today. Yesterday, Mr. Bush vowed never to raise taxes, saying this time he means it. Meanwhile, Vice President Quayle, stumping in California yesterday, began nurturing a kinder, gentler campaign image. Bill Agatuda reports.
Increasingly worried that being too conservative will turn off the moderate suburban voters Republicans desperately need, it was a toned-down, laid-back Dan Quayle in California this week. On a TV call-in show, for example, Quayle didn't say abortion should be illegal. Rather, Americans should reflect more on the issue. On gay rights, too, Quayle tried to distance himself from the Pat Buchanan wing of the party.
We have a very good, I think you know this, a very good policy of non-discrimination. We have enforced that. It's been a policy that this president demanded. And I don't think you heard any of that rhetoric coming from me.
And look at this, Dan Quayle, the unlikeliest pitchman for you-know-who.
Murphy Brown on Channel 5.
Quayle was softening the family values theme because this is Hollywood. And in California, there are far more urgent concerns. Another defense plant shut down this week.
We're going to work our way out of this. We will resist any and all attempts to make deeper defense cuts than the president is proposing.
And as if to further say, trust us, we'll make it better next term, Quayle delivered the biggest mea culpa yet for the president's tax increase.
We raised taxes on the American people, and we put this country right into a recession. We're struggling to get out of it. He's learned. You do learn.
What Quayle learned this week was that California, with its economy in shambles, is going to be a very tough sell. Even in the most conservative parts of the state, he and the president are still behind in the polls. Bill Agatuda, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The other candidate for Vice President, Al Gore, was the guest on CNN's Larry King Live last night. When a mystery caller phoned in, the mischief began.
Senator Gore?
Yes.
I know I probably shouldn't say this, but I think you're a very handsome man.
Uh-oh.
Are you available for a date on Friday night?
All right, who put this up?
Who is this?
I have no idea.
No, he's not available. He's happy.
That's the answer. I'm not available.
Not even for your wife?
Yeah, for my wife.
Who is
Hi,
this?
this is Tipper. I'm calling you from Asheville. You're doing great.
Oh, my Aha! You didn't recognize your wife's voice.
Mrs. Gore says she just decided to call to, quote, tell that handsome devil hello. At the U.S. Open Tennis Championships, Jim Courier disposed of Andre Agassi. Agassi's girlfriend, Wendy Stewart, not Barbara Streisand, was there. She watched as Agassi tired in the fourth set. The 4-hour match found the two heavy hitters scrambling to display their soft touch in the fourth set. Courier, the top seed, won the point and eliminated the 8th-seeded Agassi. Took 4 sets. Kept us up way too late last night. 26 minutes before the hour. Time for this morning's weather from Storm Field of WCBS TV here in New York, standing in for Mark McEwen this morning. Good morning again.
Another one, Harry. Good morning. Boy, that was a great match last night. Hey, take a look at our radar this morning. You're noticing first that we've got a little bit of a shower activity just northern part of Florida, southern Georgia. That's now moving offshore. Will not be a factor later on today, but the big weather maker is right in here. A cold front that has died down a little bit overnight, but is destined to build up again as the heating starts one more time. The cycle begins this morning. Let's go to a close-up shot first in Kentucky, and you're seeing right in here between Lexington, just in here, and coming across from Louisville, another line. Lexington is dying out, but this next line of showers will be hitting there in a couple of hours. Nothing really big embedded in here, but Nina in Kentucky also looking at some problems later on today. These showers will begin to build up as they move across Kentucky. Now, the second shot will show you in Oklahoma, and there is some big action going here. Large mass of embedded thunder showers in here as you move up towards Enid, between Enid and Oklahoma City, moving back towards Tulsa and over to Fort Smith, Arkansas. There's a large mass of showers, still some big thunder showers there. And again, there is some heavy rain and hail associated with that, so be very careful if you're in that region today. That's the national forecast. Now here's a look at your weather.
A chance to dry out today after about 3/4 of an inch of rain in central Iowa yesterday. Plenty of sunshine, northwesterly winds today at around 10 to 20, highs ranging from the mid-60s in the north and east to around 70 to 72 for much of southern Iowa.
We'll be back with a little bit more about that serious weather and a quick look maybe at our weekend when we come back later in the next half hour. Harry?
Thanks, Storm. Would Israel really give up the strategic Golan Heights in exchange for peace with Syria? That question's being taken a lot more seriously these days with a new government under Prime Minister Rabin. Benjamin Netanyahu, who formerly served as Deputy Foreign Minister, is now a member of the Israeli Parliament. He joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
The news this morning in an interview today, Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin said that Israel would be ready for territorial compromise in the occupied Golan Heights in return for a peace treaty with Syria. Would you back him up if it went that way?
Well, I think there's a very limited leeway, as the Prime Minister himself said, for that kind of compromise. You have to realize that the Golan Heights is very narrow. It's about 10 miles wide on average. It sits on top of north of Israel, and it controls about half of Israel's water. So it's a very strategic place with very little area, with very little give. I suppose that if Mr. Rabin speaks of centimeters, as he did the other week, he's not going to get a big argument from the majority of Israelis. But most Israelis, and I suspect many in the government as well, feel that in the case of the Golan Heights, it is Syria who attacked Israel from the Golan Heights. That's how we got to be there in the first place. That it is Syria that should start talking about territories for peace, and that it is Syria who, for the sake of peace, should start talking about giving up parts or all of the Golan Heights in exchange for a peace treaty.
But as at least America's attention has moved away from this for some months now, especially since the peace process started last fall, isn't there real change in the wind, or at least perhaps the possibility of change in the wind now?
There is a possibility. I think it comes primarily from the fact that the Soviet Union no longer exists. So Syria needs to make its peace, probably with the U.S. more than with Israel. And they know that the U.S. says, look, if you want to be on our good books, Syria, you have to sit down and negotiate peace with Israel. I think that's what's happening now. For Syria to take that extra step and to say, I know that for the sake of peace, I, the leader of Syria, know that for the sake of peace, I have to have a peace in which Israel is secure, in which it will know that I will not attack it again. I can sign a piece of paper with it, but Saddam has signed many pieces of paper. I could violate them tomorrow. But when the Israeli army sits on top of the Golan Heights and looks eyeball to eyeball with the Syrian army, then the inducement to keep the peace is that much greater. So I would say peace is possible with Syria, providing it knows that it will have to be a secure peace with Israel on the Golan Heights, not off of it.
I'm also curious to know, because we have been spending so much time looking inward here in the United States with a struggling economy and elections and everything else, with the no-fly zone that has been imposed on Iraq. What's the reaction at home for you? And do you feel more or less danger with Saddam Hussein increasingly being backed into Baghdad?
Well, I think the circumstances are slightly different than they were in the Gulf War. I mean, there's no question of coalitions. There's no question of Saddam's power has been cut down. But the fact that it wouldn't make sense for him to sort of step on the American tripwire, say by not only flying his planes below the parallel line, but also by launching missiles against Israel, the fact that it's not rational, that it doesn't make sense, doesn't mean that he won't do it. So we in Israel understand that we live next to unreconstructed dictatorships like Saddam's, like Syria. They have no democracy. Saddam gets elected with 99.999% of the vote, as does the president of Syria. We know that at any point, the leader of such a country could decide to go from a state of peace or non-war to war. And we have to keep our defenses up, and we do.
I'm also curious, because our election has a lot to do with what happens over in your own country, and there's a lot of talk now that President Bush is going to sell a lot, or allow the sale of a lot of F-15s to Saudi Arabia.
Well, I understand the belief that if you send these weapons there, you are going to increase measurably the security of the Gulf area. But remember that Saudi Arabia was stocked, armed. Its arsenals were bursting to the seams before the Gulf War, and it didn't make a difference, because ultimately when the crunch came, the real defense had to be provided by the United States, by the British. I would say that these regimes are of such a nature that they're really more prey than predator at the present. And you can arm them to the teeth, but you'll discover very soon they have no teeth. But in the event of a coalition against Israel, all of a sudden all that weaponry that doesn't really get to be used to defend these countries can all of a sudden turn and be subject to the hands of someone like Saddam Hussein, as was the case of the American weapons delivered to Kuwait. In the case of the Middle East, Harry, I would say you know who you're shipping the weapons to. You don't know who's going to end up using them. And ultimately, I can tell you, if they're going to be used, they're probably going to be used against Western countries and against Israel. So less weapons, better security arrangements, and secure peace, I think, is a better prescription for peace in the Middle East.
Benjamin Netanyahu, good to see you again. Thank you. Paula?
18 minutes before the hour. Coming up next on CBS This Morning, news for mothers who smoke and their kids.